everyone in the team. So you have all the players, you got more players than just one. You actually get so much more information because you can compare the information. You can see, okay, why is these four players are playing the same position and one of them stands out. They are getting like much more or bigger number or bigger sized impacts. What, that's in the risk. And you can see that the rest are not getting it. So how do you address that? And as a coach, then you will get like so much.
Herzlich willkommen bei Football Hautnah, der Podcast, bei dem dich Headcoach Martin Hanselmann hautnah mit in seinen Alltag nimmt. Moderiert das Ganze von mir, Johannes Reuter. Und heute haben wir mal wieder ein Special für euch, und zwar wir haben ein Interview. Die American Football Saison geht ja auch in der European League of Football los. Die GFL-Saison hat ja bereits gestartet. Und Martin ist natürlich auch wieder mit dabei. Martin, hallo.
Hallo Johannes, grüß dich.
Ja, steigt schon die Vorfreude aufs Wochenende?
Ja, auf alle Fälle. Spannung wird sicherlich ein sehr interessantes Wochenende, denke ich, gerade wenn es jetzt angeht. Gute Paarungen dabei.
Ja.
Bin gespannt. Frankfurt-Rhein-Fire wird bestimmt ein gutes Spiel. Und ja, wir legen los mit der Saison. Ne?
Ja, und der Sport kommt immer besser an. Mein Bruder hat mich heute darauf hingewiesen, dass bei BR24, ich höre nochmal keine Nachrichten, aber hat es so gemeint, dass da über die Munich Ravens schon gesprochen wurde. Also wir sind im Radio immer mehr präsenter mit dem Football.
Ja, das ist schön. Das ist schön.
Ja, genau. Gut, dann schauen wir mal, wie das Wochenende verläuft. GFL läuft ja schon und dann werden wir in der nächsten Folge da ein bisschen tiefer drauf einsteigen. Aber heute haben wir ein Thema für euch, was auch mit Football viel zu tun hat. Und zwar, es wird heute um Kopfverletzungen gehen, und zwar um Sensoren, wie man dann auch CTE und so weiter vorbeugen kann. Es gab da ja letzte Saison bei den Miami Dolphins ja auch ein Riesenthema mit Tua Tagovailoa. Und da hat uns jetzt die Heidi angeschrieben, und zwar, sie ist von einem finnischen Unternehmen. Und wir werden jetzt dann auch auf Englisch umswitchen, und sie wird uns dann mal ihr Konzept vorstellen, warum, weshalb, wieso sie jetzt dieses Unternehmen gegründet hat, wie es dazu kam. Und so now I would switch to English to introduce Heidi as well. So she's CEO and founder of Northern Sports Insight and Intelligence OY. So probably she can introduce her now a little bit more deeper, because now we start with head injuries in sports. What are the impacts and which solution do you have with your product? Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Johannes. Hi, thanks a lot for having me over. And hi, everyone, all the listeners. Sorry, my German is very bad, so I understand quite a bit, but to be able to speak so that anyone else would understand what I'm trying to say. So English is much better for me. First of all, right, some introductions. So I am a co-founder and a CEO of the company with a horribly long name, Northern Sports Insight Intelligence. We are a Finnish wearable technology startup. And we are the creators of ACT Head Impact Tracker, which is a measuring device for forces and impact acting on a head. Basically, we were started around 6 years ago to do exactly this. So we want to be able to collect the information on what really is that happening on the pitches and on the different sports arenas as of today. And our absolute focus, yes, is in measuring the forces and impacts on a head, because this is a very serious thing, and there is very little information about it. And we just need to start acting on it based on everything that we know as of today.
Okay, thank you. And you played ice hockey, I think, by yourself, or how does it come that you now want to go out with the head impact tracker?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess most of the people working on the field of sports in different areas, like in a sports tech, have some kind of own background there. Yeah, maybe the longest careers were in ice hockey, indeed, and then also a sport called floorball, which is not very well known in Germany, I believe. But it's something that we just had to create more sports to be played inside. But it's kind of a mix of something in between the field hockey and ice hockey. So you play it inside with your sneakers on, not the skates and stuff like that. So these two. And yeah, I have had an injury on my head as well, in my inner ear, not in the brains, at least that I know of until today. So it's quite clear that these kind of head impacts do happen on, in so many sports and across all the different levels and age groups and to all the genders as well. So it's definitely a phenomena that many of the listeners as well, I believe, do have some stories of their own to tell.
Okay, yeah. And how does it then exactly look like? So, because in American football, you have also a helmet, like in ice hockey. How can you put in this tracker in the helmet? How would it look like? How huge is the tracker? Maybe you can describe this for our listeners.
Right. Maybe I'll start with one thing, which is probably not very well known or understood, is that helmet is not really preventing the traumatic brain injuries. Because if it was to do so, it would be placed between your skull and your brain. Because the traumatic brain injuries are, they come because your head is moving, and then your brain tissue within your skull is moving, and it's hitting and scratching on the skull. So basically, you would always need to still do this, is like measure how your head is moving, despite the fact if you're wearing a helmet or not. Helmet is great, and American football helmet is huge, and it has a lot of cushioning, so it will definitely help to cushion away some of those forces acting on it, but it's not going to stop your head from moving and the brain inside your skull. So this is just one thing that I wanted to kind of, get on the table from the beginning. So basically, ACT Head Impact Tracker it's a small tracker. So if you take a matchbox, you take half away from the height and the length of it. So that's pretty much the size of the sensor. You can either attach it on your head, which is what we do recommend, so that you can actually measure the head movement, or then if that's for whatever reason not possible, then it can be also attached to the helmet. But of course, then it measures the helmet movement. So this is not exactly the same as how is your head moving inside the helmet, but it's definitely better than nothing. And you do get some of the measurements and some of these variables that you should be keeping an eye on just as well when doing like that. Lots of our American football users are wearing it attached to the helmet.
And it will be inside the helmet then, yes, on the back side of my head, or on the front, or where will it be?
Well, in American football helmet, there is loads of space on the hard shell, like inside. Yeah, put it inside, because outside, it might just, wear off or drop off on the pitch or something. So it's put inside. So you take a little bit of that padding, you just open it up a little bit, then you put a Velcro tape on the hard surface on the inside, and then another side of this Velcro hook and loop tape on a sensor, and then you attach it to that. So it's super easy thing to do, because it weighs like 20 grams or so you won't even, you don't have a clue that if it's in there or if it's not. So that's how we wanted it to be, obviously. So the athletes definitely are very much okay wearing it like that. You won't notice it at all.
There's no cable or whatever. It's just the sensor. That's it.
No, yeah. It uses Bluetooth wireless communication.
Okay. And you can get the information from the sensor right through Bluetooth to some coach or to somebody who wants to wants to know the information, or does the sensor collect all the information, then you can read it afterwards?
Yeah, so it works near real time. So depending on because the Bluetooth as a data transfer technology has its limits. So how far you can be, how many, what obstacles might be on the way. So depending on if you get it immediately when it happens. So basically, it's not something that sends you information or every second on the pitch. So it's reacting to the impacts over which are 10G or over, and that's what then when something like that happens, then the information is sent from the sensor wirelessly to the application on your mobile phone, which is on the sidelines somewhere. So American football pitch is really big. So this, if it's coming right there and then when it happens, or if it's coming a few seconds or a few tenths of seconds later, might depend on where is the receiving phone and where is the sending sensor. If they're on the complete other sides, opposite sides, then it might take. But it is, So the sensor will start sending the information to you as soon as it has it, right? And then you can get it on your application. So you get the information on who was impacted, when did it happen, and what is the magnitude of the impact. So we use G-forces, and we also have a sensor coming up where we also have the rotational forces included. So the linear and rotational, and what we are measuring is the G-forces, and then the rotational velocity. So it's the angular speed.
And how sensitive is it? So because I mean, in American football, you have like a lot of hits during a game, and until which values it says now, okay, please check your maybe you had a head injury or not, or Martin.
So Johannes, you're asking for, does the coach can knock on the player's helmet without getting the sensor in a concussion problem?
Like this.
Okay, cool. First of all, it's not a concussion recognition tool. Even for clinical professionals, it's very challenging to get, for example, the diagnostics right for the mild concussions, especially.
So Heidi, let me ask you real quick. So the sensor is not for getting the information, hey, this player has a concussion right now and he cannot play anymore. It's more a technical tool where you can get afterwards, and after the game, you can find out, hey, how many whatever shots and pushes you had on your helmet.
Right. Yes and no, and yes. So the thing is that it's not telling you when you got a concussion, because it's impossible for a device like this to do it, because it's very hard also for the clinicians. And this is for a very simple reason, because like if you, me, and Johannes, we're all going to get the same hit, what we get out of it is not the same, because that depends on our gender, our age, how our history of impacts have been, have we had previous concussions, and wide variety of reasons. So what you get is you get the information what just happened, and the bigger the impact, there is a thumb rule which is the bigger the impact, the bigger the force is acting on it, the bigger the chance that something will start happening in your brain. And these, I also have to now say that there has been a lot of studies within last 2 years that have been released, which is also now showcasing that we should stop just talking about always concussion, because there are also other things relating to this. I think, Johannes, you mentioned the CTE in your lead here. So there is definitely this cumulative effect on the impacts, which has, that these are contributing to degenerative brain diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and also CTE, which is there as a big factor now, also found in football, not only in American football. And even a brain cancer, glioma, has been found to have a correlation to cumulative incidents. So there is like many considerations that we have. So I would say that when you get this information on what just happened on the pitch, one of the key things really is that you should take the player out and sit them out if you're in doubt. And here, the data from Active Impact Tracker can help the decision maker. So who is the one who decides if the player comes out or goes back or stays in, really, because that is a very key decision to make at that point, and you have to have all the possible tools so that you can make the best decision.
But Heidi, from a coach's perspective, player safety first. That's for sure. All the players should be safe. And I remember in the past when I played ball, we were proud of getting these stars. If you see these stars in your eyes, and these are different times, and we know it's really a dangerous situation if you get a concussion or whatever. But from my perspective, I don't want to have just 10 players on my sideline because everybody else is out about concussion, because somebody who's in charge said, hey, now we got the sensor and we got the database out of it. And how would you see this point that it's too easy to get people out, because football and other sports, and I don't want to, well, here we talk about football, but I'm sure all the other sports have similar problems with concussions or with just touching the head and all. By myself, I cannot believe that it's safe if a goalie in soccer hits the ball and somebody hits the ball with his head when it comes down in 40 meters or whatever. So how is your feeling about the informations then? Would it be easier to pull the players out, or?
No, Martin, I want to stress that I'm a big sports fan. I'm a sport lover. I love to do different sports. And definitely we want to ensure that everybody is physically active and they could feel really good and safe about doing the sports that they love to do, and then it's the benefits physically and psychologically to be engaged in sports, in team sports, to be physically active. They are is indisputable. So the things that we should address are the negatives, and definitely this, like what certain sports and certain events in certain sports may cause your brain. These are some of those negatives that we just have to fix it, because we understand better. Like you said, Martin, you said it used to be cool to see these stars and be like, almost knocked out.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays we know that no, it's actually not cool at all.
I tell you, always when I'm missing a word, I got like, man, maybe this was one hit too much.
Right. And this is, we're now laughing about it, but actually as a coach now, because this better, then there are things that you have to do so that, you take the risk down for your players. The challenge is that, the athletes are better, they're stronger, they're faster, they're technically better. So the game is just getting faster and faster and stronger, and that I hear a lot, like in European football, the ball used to be very much heavier, especially in the rain, and it was like all this and stuff and everything, and it's like, maybe it did, but also at that point, the game was very different, and it's just a different, the athletes are just so much better nowadays than what they used to be back in the day. So that's why we kind of have to improve in so many more things, and not just rely on the other things like gear development to take care of everything. We have to act. You coaches are really like key here, because I'm going to tell you, you can do this. It just requires that you decide that you will want to make a difference here. And it's not, of course, we can never, ever be in a situation where nobody will fall off the horse, or nobody will be tackled on the American football pitch, or like something will not happen. But the key is, what do you do in a practice so that you can have the players in the best possible condition, be equipped with best possible knowledge, to be in these situations, and also everything that you do in a practice, because it's still like most of the events that you cannot control over is going to happen in the matches and in the games. But as a coach, you have all the power over what's happening in your practice. And that is over 90% of the time that you are on the pitch. Yeah. So this is now, the key area. So, for example, for you, Martin, and all the other coaches out there listening, there is 3 things that you should manage on all of your players. And actually it should be managed across all their player pathway. So we have to start when they're juniors and when these things are starting to happen. So in European football, when you start the heading and a head play, and in American football, when the tackling starts and when, like more physical contacts and events where the forces, more violent forces on a head start occurring. So these 3 things are number, magnitude, and frequency of head impacts and more violent forces acting on a head, right? Mm-hmm. Apologies. So number really means that if, for example, and this is how we usually say that, okay, start using head impact trackers this way. First, put them on and get your so-called baseline. So when you do everything the way that you have always done, just keep on doing that and collect that information. Like business as usual, how many impacts do we get? Yeah. And then you should decide, okay, so now we want to decrease the number. What can we do? Right. So that's kind of a next thing. The same with the magnitude. Like try to find out what are the situations where the biggest forces are acting on a head. Where do you get the biggest impacts? So there are probably things like when you're tackled on the ground and you hit on the ground, or when you come head to head, or, like big men or women are just like coming together and things like this. There is definitely events where you just see that, okay, so these are the big magnitude events. Mm-hmm. So how can you make the players better to meet these situations? There's definitely techniques that you can improve. And when you can now track the forces acting on a head for the first time, you can actually look at training those techniques for those high magnitude situations, the way that you can see, okay, so if they're doing like this or like this or like this, or keeping it like this, like in a different positions, is it really having a impact? So does it show on the head forces acting on a head? When they do it like this, is it bigger forces or smaller forces? So how can you train the techniques and develop them to the direction that the forces acting on a head are getting smaller in these events, which has the highest magnitudes? This is another very important thing. Then, of course, you have your physical training as well. How can you train the physics for the players the way that it supports, everything towards brain health? So lowering the magnitude on these forces. And then there is a frequency, which has to do with how close these impacts are coming. And the more time in between, the better it is, basically. But here I would say that maybe the most critical is not to go into this, what is called second impact syndrome. So when you have had a first one and there is already something happening up there, you let the player continues playing, balance a little bit off, maybe, reaction speed not so good, a bit off, slow-mo kind of thing. Second, boom. And then comes the second impact syndrome, which is probably one of these things that, most likely is causing this like reset in your brain. You have to learn how to eat and speak and, walk again. You could even die.
So that's a good point, Heidi, that with these informations we have as coaches, we could schedule our practice in a proper way that it's a higher quality and a better come out and productiveness for the players' safety. And that's for me a big point to see that, and would be very interesting to get the sensors and get all the informations about that we can say, hey, maybe we got well, in football, we got sometimes, and that's a critical phase for me would be if we are an inside run. So we practice all the inside runs. Defense tries to defend the run play. This is always combined with a lot of collisions. So then maybe we could find out, hey, these are the number of plays we do is too high. We should cut it down, maybe put a second sequence into the practice that we have time, that the brain is recovering a little bit, and we can do this again. So, and do you have already informations about how high the frequency could be, or the impact? When should you change that, or is that all still on work and online for the future?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I think this is such a, exactly the kind of attitude that we hope from the coaches is like, okay, now, I know now exactly what I could do to help to improve the health and well-being of my players. And this is exactly what is needed, because you can do it, but you must want to do it as well. And there is definitely, I'm not a coach, and I'm not, I don't know all the details of all the sports. So definitely the coaches in each sport, and with their knowledge and professionalism and understanding, will be able to do this much faster than if I was trying to track down exactly how to do these things, Martin. Yeah. So I can't tell you exactly now. I'm not even sure if I understood exactly what this, like what you were describing in detail, the situation is, but I would just basically like to say that when it comes to frequency and things like this, the key really is that, you have to be cleared to go back, like if there is a big magnitude event happening on the pitch, and there is a lot of tools that can help you to define like what has happened. So what if ACT tells you, okay, this is what happened, and then you're like, what did it cause? And I'm always telling everyone who we work with that if you do not have the medical resources on your sidelines, do find these. Lots of the tools out there are free for use, and one of the best ones, which we usually always are referring to, is the concussion recognition tool, or concussion recognition pocket tool. And it's free to download from the internet, and you can just, put it on a lamination machine and put it on your bag, and anyone can use it to actually try to figure out if the concussion has occurred. And obviously, there is lots of like very simple things to follow. It's super easy to use. And if there is any doubt, then please at least sit them out. But of course, you should follow the instructions over there in these tools, or given by the medical professionals. So the frequency, the longer the period in between is obviously a good thing, because you can't fix the brain. The brain is kind of fixing itself, right? Yeah. So when something becomes damaged, the brain can't fix that specific part, but it can reroute itself, so that most of those things that part used to do is taken care of by the other parts in the rerouting, so to speak. But this is exactly what has to, it has to be kind of fixed again before you can go out, and that's why the medical professionals should clear you to be fit to go back. So I was just trying to explain that that's why it's so critical. One of the key things really is that you understand what just happened out there, and that take those players out, so that the second impact syndrome does not come, for the very simple reason that you or the player or whoever is making the decision can make the wrong decision, which is might have really dramatic consequences right there and then. So because every coach needs to do this decision every once in a while. Are you fit to go back? Yeah. So do you really know? And then we always say, please sit them out.
The thing is, sometimes you get situations in a game, you ask the player and he says, hey, I'm good, coach. I want to go back. And And as a coach, you got the situation, man, I need this player on the field, but
Right.
like you said, the consequences are not. We don't know the consequences in this second and this moment. It's really tough, and it's good to have facts, maybe facts where you can your decision based on, and do this. That's a big. Hey, Heidi, to save American football, does we have all these concussions in other sports as well, or because here it's always so big about American football and concussions? Do you have experience with other sports? Because you cannot put the tracker on a soccer player.
Yes,
they don't use helmets.
No, they don't, but you can use it in a different way as well.
Okay,
absolutely, Martin. I think this is very key to understand that really these things are happening in so many sports. Horse riding, so different equestrian sports, cycling, scooting, skating, European football, ice hockey, lacrosse, so there is probably more sports where these impacts may and do occur than those where it does not, or where it's no risk ever to have any of that. So American football, yes, probably was the first where the whole discussion started. And that's why everyone knows about American football. And of course, there was also this Hollywood movie made out of it. So, but the other sports, definitely they are following, and it is something that is very much happening in so many of the other sports as well. You guys and girls are not alone, but it does not mean that you don't have to do anything.
No.
Everybody else has to do as well.
This wasn't my intention. I know. I just try to sneak away from American football because people go and say, "Oh, it's so bad."
I think that this is also one of the key drivers for you to change the sport to better.
That's
right?
Maybe, it's a big chance for us.
Yes,
it's a big chance for us to show everybody, hey, it's not so tremendous.
And we're doing so much
like everybody
more,
says.
Right. And when you are starting, you're being the first ones to do so much more about making the difference, then you will make every other sport look bad, right? So I think that this definitely is a glass, half empty or half full. And just like you, Martin, I hope so many coaches out there listening, you can just see this as an opportunity to start improving the image of your game from this perspective.
Yes.
Because it's an amazing game. It's so great. And you got such an athletic people in it. And it's so tactical. And it's so strategic and all of that. But this, it's kind of a little stain on your shiny armor of the game. It's like, but how is it for your brain health?
Yeah.
But you can change this. You can improve things for sure. Absolutely.
And do you have some data already which you have compared, maybe American football to ice hockey to another sport? Do you already have some data like this?
On a very kind of a high level, maybe few things. What I'm thinking about. Okay, so first of all, like, I haven't been doing any of these measurements in USA. So as I have understood, in USA, the game is quite, it's a little bit of a different game there than it is in Europe, if we talk about American football. In American football, there is relatively big number of events, definitely for certain positions played, not all of them. So it's very unevenly kind of spread, that certain positions get high number and certain positions get very low number, if we just talk about number of events. Definitely one of the things is that there are also quite high magnitude impacts present in American football, because we talk about big players, athletic players, a lot of this like man on man or woman on woman kind of situations, which is quite typical to American football, but maybe not so much if we compare with European football, for example.
Okay.
And then the frequency, well, of course, that again varies between, like on those positions where you also have to train a lot more on these situations where they get more impacts, higher impacts, so it's relatively high. Then when we look at something like ice hockey, which obviously coming from Finland, we know pretty well. So I'm taking that as an example. But by the way, you guys have been
we got a number 2 in World Championship,
right? Huh? Exactly. We were nowhere close. I think maybe again, there is a big change going on there. Well, as a Finn, I certainly hope that it's not not that dramatic for us. But congratulations, I think, and it's not an isolated incident. I think that you guys have been doing pretty well, and so. Definitely,
great coaching
that
there.
Is going.
They have great coaches in Germany there.
Yeah.
Probably.
All about the coaches.
All about the coaches.
Yeah, well, a little bit on let's give some credit for the players as well. But yes, so maybe some of the listeners as well know ice hockey and have seen some of the games and stuff. The number of events there is lower.
Okay.
Because of course you got your tackle situations, things like that, but you don't get much in the practice, for example. So it can be that going into the practice for the elite men's team and maybe get, a session like from the whole team, 3 to 5 events. Of course, there's different kind of practices and, so I'm not saying that I have a full understanding on all the different kind of practices that you can have throughout the season and everything. But as again, looking at the big picture, not so much number of events. Of course, different again in the games and in a match day. These can be different, but also then some incidents are quite high in the magnitude. So this is somewhat to the similar level, but smaller in the numbers in general, I would say. And then we have European football, which again, you don't do so much of, it's not about tackling. It's not about, bringing someone down or something. But because of the headings and head play, for example, when you look at just the practices, the numbers can get really big. Because when you train the, different situations and there can be a lot of headings and things like that coming into the place, that I would say that this is something which is very kind of sticking out, is when you actually play with your head, the number of these events, even if they're quite small in size, typically. But the number really is. And when we come back into this, right? So the bigger the number per session, and even if we say that also in the practices, you have a big number of events, even if they're quite small, then the frequency also is kind of coming in.
How can you track
all
this?
That, sorry.
How can you track this with a soccer player?
Well, if I only had that video now, I could show you. But basically, you can attach this sensor not only in a helmet but also on a headband.
Okay.
And then
that's right.
Comes with you.
Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So we also I hope I mentioned in the beginning, is also in any sport, even without under the helmet, we always recommend to put it on a head, because then you can actually measure the head and not the helmet. But basically, this is how you wear it in football. Yeah. So we got headband that you can attach it to, or you can attach it to almost any kind of a headband.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's the way to do it. And yes, it's all of these sports, they have their own. They have to find their own way how to improve things for their players. And again, you're not alone, but you just have to find a way to do it in American football.
But it's like you said, there's a big opportunity to really have an impact on the safety of the players. Just knowing this and getting the informations, and there are just a little of changes in your practice schedule, and it helps a lot for the players. It's just to get the informations, and for that we need teams. They can use it, and they would start getting the informations, and then we can start changing things like that. Do you have football teams in Finland who already tried that and tested it?
Now American football, right? Sorry, I always
sorry.
Well, we've been working with the American Football Federation in Finland.
Okay.
And they are actually, I hope to quite soon be able to launch some of the information on the big study that we went with when they were measuring, and we were Act Heading, but Tracker was involved in 120 players There was men and women, and then also the older boy juniors involved to that. And it was quite it was all last season, I think, this whole like measurement. And now there's the academic part is in making, and we will launch the information what we are allowed to share to the big public as soon as it comes out. But I think that these kind of initiatives are absolutely necessary, so that we really understand, as well, like what's happening in the men's elite, and what's happening in the women's elite, and what's happening in the juniors, and how can we help everyone everywhere. So really getting coaches like yourself, Martin, to act as a leaders in the way, like spreading the word and spreading also the ideas and the innovations and ideas that you got, what helped you to when you are working with your team is going to be something that you can just spread out, and all the coaches can start just having these better practices and protocols and trainings and drills things, and just to kind of like, how would I just say this? It's only those three things, anything and everything that you can do in order to decrease the number, magnitude, and frequency of these impacts and violent forces acting on a head, which means, by the way, if you're like, what is she talking about, violent forces? I mean that you don't necessarily have to have an impact. You don't have to smash your head on the ground or to another player or something. If it just is a jolt, which is like a really violent one, then it can do the same than what really like hitting your head somewhere can do. And this is also very important to understand, that you don't have to smash your head. So anyway, so these three things and everything that you can do to come down with those is going to benefit your players.
If a coach is listening to our podcast and he's interested in doing this for his team, where can he get these trackers from? Can he call you, or can he call Johannes, or?
I don't have anything here.
Johannes,
Johannes is the man.
Yeah,
they can call me. But
they
we'll
can
see
call.
what will happen.
Please look me up in LinkedIn, or look our company up in www.act, so ACT-tracker.com, for example. So these are some of the, just few of these things, but hopefully maybe Johannes the man, you can just, put our website address somewhere,
I can put it in the show
information.
notes.
Yeah, exactly. Or something. So please come and talk to me and let's talk more about this, because ACT is not going to do anything by itself. It really needs people who will take that information and make it work. So this is why it's so critical and so important, and so much thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come here and talk to you. And I really, really hope that, Martin, your team as well, that we could enable you some of these measurements and some of these things, so that you can get, firsthand experience on this, because anything that can be done to improve the players' health and well-being and safety, we should do it. There is like no excuse.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. That's really true. Do you have an idea when you can start getting in the United States in high schools or colleges, or is it a far way to go?
Probably not. I think it's more about, trying to focus our company's resources.
Okay.
And there's like 700 million people living in Europe, and we want to help everyone. So we're still a small company, and we can only do so little, but absolutely, we would love to be able to address anyone, listening to this, getting excited about the opportunity, wanting to try, wanting to hear more, learn more. Please let me know. And thanks again for Johannes and Martin, you guys. And yes, America we will be there. But I can't just give you right now the exact dates or that. Yeah.
So Martin, he has connections to South Dakota College. I don't know if this could be interesting for them, or is it too early
sure.
then when it would be first time, Martin? I don't know.
Right. Well, obviously, if Martin, you have a place somewhere that you would like.
Well,
get started.
I try to get it for my guys and see the information, what we can do with the information. It's a very interesting tracker and idea. And like you said, we need to do everything. And I come from a time where we hit each other, really just violent and tough. And but now we know more. We know it better. And in my career as a coach, I learned that the quality of a rep is so important. That in the past we had just, hey, we need reps, and you need more reps, and over again, and rep it again and rep it again. I think these times should be over, because for the younger generation of athletes, this is boring. Just wrap it up all the time, and do that, and do this over and over again. And for us as coaches, we save time and resources if the quality of our reputation is better and higher than it was in the past. And when people always say, well, these younger athletes, they are not tough like we were, and they're not they don't want to practice hard as we did, but we get better, we become better. All these athletes have more world championships, they got world records, they get faster, they get better, they get stronger. And in my opinion, it all starts with the quality of the repetitions. We just practice better, and that's a big opportunity for everybody. And if we have an opportunity now to save our athletes and make it safer for them and better for them, it's another big step in the right direction in sports. That's my opinion, and I think it's important to know that, because the concussion is a big thing in American football. People talk about that, and I know how many people heard that interview with President Obama, who said, if I would have had a boy, I wouldn't let him play football. For the sport, it's just horrible. It's a tremendous sport, but yeah, it's a little bit dangerous, obviously. But maybe if we got more information, so we got more data about it, we can say, no, it isn't so dangerous. It's how we treat it, how we practice it, how we coach it. These are the things we need to do. And so I think it's a great idea and a very good product to do that and get these informations.
And Martin, out of your perspective now, makes it also sense for a single player who maybe wants to try it out for himself, or is it better for a whole football team to test this product? What is...
Well, that's a big thing. The better way would be the whole team to change the practice and to get all the results and find the right way how you do this, or you can treat players in the future. But obviously, it's also good for a single person if he wants to practice safer and makes his reps in a higher quality. Just to figure out, hey, this is not how we do it. Maybe we should do it like this and that. So both ways should be able, and we should start it. That's pretty much what I think.
Absolutely. Okay. If I may add just one single thing to that, when you have, just like Martin said, when you have everyone in the team, so you have all the players, you got more players than just one, you actually get so much more information, because you can compare the information. You can see, okay, why is these 4 players are playing the same position and one of them stands out, they are getting like much more or bigger number or bigger sized impacts. What, that's in the risk, and you can see that the rest are not getting it. So how do you address that? And as a coach, then you will get like so much more understanding on that, and you can, these single highest risks, like players and positions are better coming out than if you just were following one player when you don't have anything to refer, to compare the information with. So this is definitely why we are we are recommending to use
Yes.
a lot of it, and so that it is a coach who can then access to all of that information so that they can get this comparable information as well. So it's like a little bit like an onion, you know, like how much more you can get out of it. And then if you, for example, are taking a video on your sessions or on your games, and you can then come back because you know when these things are happening on the pitch, and you can come back and see, okay, so this is the practice, you know, like where all of these things happen, or these are the situations where all of these things were happening, and that's what's leading, you know, to these big magnitude events, these kind of, you know, things. How is the referee work going? You know, are they up to speed on these things? Disciplinary actions. So there is like many things that you can always like add up, and you can get more information. And then the understanding is growing, and then Martin becomes, you know, like a guru in this area, and his market value goes through the roof, because this is simply something that everyone will need to start looking, you know, because we have to change things. And just as a last notion from my end, I would just like to say that, please, all the coaches out there, I think that your job will be much easier once you are able to create awareness and understanding on this matter on your players. Because players are making a lot of those decisions on the pitch, which might lead into high magnitude events. You know, they might take too much risk. They might, you know, play on that gray area of like, oh, you know, is it intense, you know, full play for, or is it really worthy doing this here in this moment? You know, like all of kind of these things, if we could just help them to understand what can, you know, these decisions, what kind of impact they may have on that players themselves or the other players. Maybe we can get some of those moments out of, you know, like happening to the other direction, that they make better decisions, more educated decisions, which will then also lead into coming down in a magnitude and number and a frequency of events. And then this same, you know, like advocate the change in attitudes, and also then becomes the behavior, and then hopefully outside the pitch as well, and all of this, because it's so, you know, people don't really understand. They don't know what causes it, and how you get it, and how easily kind of it comes. And, you know, you do not have to pass out so that you to have a brain injury, you know, you can just all of these kind of things. So I think this education is also very important, that hopefully will play a big role as well in things improving in this sense.
Okay, thanks. So I think this have been good last words from your side for our podcast episode. Now, Martin, do you have last words from your side as well?
No. I think Heidi said everything, and she put it on the point, and made the point for everything. And we need to really take our responsibility for the athletes, what is very important as coaches, and these are all is said, and I would like to try that and see how many trackers we can get, and how this can work, and would like to try that and get the information and see what we can establish with that then. So these are my words, Johannes.
Okay, good. So yeah,
and I don't get a guru, Heidi. I don't become a guru,
but you will. I got my crystal ball here.
Okay, so then thank you very much, both of you. I just want to say it's an non-paid advertisement here. It's just like we wanted to give here in the German American football scene like an impression how the future could look like, how it could already be done nowadays at your football team. So if you want to try it out, Martin will try it. I think with the Bavarian Warriors you will start, Martin, probably.
Hopefully we can do that.
Yeah. And
would be perfect. Started with young athletes. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was just important for us to talk about this very important topic for the sports here in Europe as well. And let's see what the future will look like also at high school and college and maybe the NFL in next years with similar tracker systems. And so thank you very much again for listening today and wish you a nice week and have a nice day. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Tschüss.
Yeah. And thanks, Heidi, as well for your time.
Yeah. All right.
Danke. Tschüss.
Tschüss.
All right. Tschüss.